listened to your video explaining magic beans, and the logic behind it makes so much sense. How did you come up with the idea, and why haven't room correction companies come up with this method?
Dude, E4 Superfly, that's a great question. You know, it's funny. Like, I don't think anybody's really asked me that. Like, how did you come up with that method?
I mean, I mean, when you did it, you know, it was first not magic beans. Well, I guess it was your remote calibration, right? Because it was a manual calibration.
Yeah.
And you told the Dirac people about it, and they're like, yeah, that seems like the right way to do it.
Right. Yeah, well, I wanted to sell to them, but they weren't really that interested. But maybe for other reasons, they seem busy. But it comes from a lot of things. I think part of it was reading Floyd Toole's book, and some of the stuff that he was saying is like, yeah, you tend to hear through the room, listen through the room. Like, you're able to kind of like figure out what the room is doing, and like you hear through the room, right? Meaning like you're actually able to hear the direct sound of that speaker. And then but then later on he's like, yeah, but you know, bass should be EQ'd in the room. And then he explains why that's the case, and psychoacoustically what happens in the bass region versus the higher frequencies in the transition region, right? So I'm like, okay, all right, well, all this makes sense. Well, it seems like the proper way of EQing is EQ the bass, you know, the mid range. It's kind of tough because you don't know what's happening, where that transition is exactly in that room. And then the higher frequencies, you know, it should really be flat, right? But he's talking a lot about anechoic. And at the same time, you have to understand that I'm measuring speakers all the time for review purposes. So I'm trying to find a good way to get an in-room measurement of the speaker, because I don't want to take it outside. I don't have a clipple. I just want something that's reasonable. And so because I'm doing all these things of, you know, I'm measuring the speakers, reading about psychoacoustics, doing calibrations on my own system, trying to figure out the best ways, I came up with this method where like I was just like, all right, so I measure near field to try to get an on-axis response of a speaker, right? Most room calibration, they measure the main listening position. I'm like, but how do they know exactly what that speaker is doing, right? I don't know that they do. And also, I have to give a shout out to Charles Sprinkle because he showed me the moving mic method. So it's a combination of all these things. And when you're just in the game, right? Any game, it doesn't have to be audio. When you're in the game, getting your hands dirty, doing things, opportunities kind of present themselves, right? Ideas come to you naturally because you're just doing the thing, right? Like, I don't think I'm super crazy smart at any particular thing. I just put in the hours, I put in the time. And if you're spending that much time, you're going to figure some stuff out, right? So I think if anything, the thing I'm good at is taking different ideas from different places and combining it in a new way that hasn't been combined before. So moving mic method over here, looking at Floyd Toole's research, figuring out how to do an in-room on-axis response that's fairly reliable. And anyway, I ended up coming up with a calibration method that sounded really good, but I had to do it manually, and it took 7 hours. You know, I'd have to take it into REW and do calculations in there to figure out what was happening. And then I'm like, yeah, I tried to sell it to Dirac, and they're like, I don't know that they were interested. They said, why don't you just make the app yourself? You know what I mean? I said, okay, let's do that. So that's where we're at.
Here we are.
Now it doesn't take 7 hours; it takes like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you have if you're on a Denon Marantz and you have multi QX, yeah, it takes 20 minutes. Otherwise, it take long.
So thank you for that question. Thank you for allowing me to explain that, man. But yeah, that's basically it. It's just taking from all different places and putting new things together. I think that's how everything that's awesome here. They always say there's nothing new under the sun, right? Nothing new under the sun. Like, but there's new ways to put things together.
There's new ways to reframe, new ways to look at all kinds of things. You know,
yeah.
You know, it's like we think we have the right answer until a righter answer comes along, right?
I asked my developer, I asked him, hey, how come somebody hasn't done what we're doing right now? Like I don't have a PhD in acoustics, so how come why am I figuring this thing out? And he's like, most of the time these PhDs, like people who are into this stuff, like hardcore engineers, they end up doing things that are probably more important than calibrating your system. So they could figure it out.
Probably, yeah.
But they're like, you know what, I'm going to do this medical thing, or, I'm going to do something else. So
let me help a huge amount of people instead of this very, very small amount of people that need to calibrate their home theater.
Yeah.
You're so selfish, Joe. You're so selfish. You need to be.
I don't know, man. Music makes my life better. That's all I know.
Oh man, you're preaching to the choir over here, buddy.
All right, everybody. We do the Daily Hi-Fi podcast every Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So make sure you join up to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Daily Hi-Fi, and we will see you there for the big show every Monday. Yeah.